So we talked about sperm production in the testes and how sperm are subsequently stored in the epididymis, and how when they are ejaculated, they come up into the body cavity and they pick up fluid from the seminal vesicles and the prostate gland. So we can talk about what is in semen and how much semen a typical male produces during an ejaculate. So when we look at fertility, normal males have between 20 and 30 million sperm per milliliter of semen. And they also tend to ejaculate about 5 mils of semen. So 5 mils of semen. And so then we get about, in each ejaculate, about 100 million sperm. Okay, so that is a lot of sperm. And so we'll talk about what the possible reasons why males produce so many sperm. But when we look at infertility due to low sperm count, a low sperm count is less than 10 million sperm per milliliter. And that could have to do with hormonal issues. It could also have to do with the environment. So for example, we talked about the importance of the testes location outside of the body cavity. So deformed sperm even becomes a problem with fertility, and sperm that is stored too long in the epididymis also becomes a problem with fertility. And so we can see here that a lot of sperm are needed for fertilization. So we can look at some of the factors why this is the case. So factors determining sperm viability once ejaculated. So after ejaculation, one of the things that happens inside of the vagina is that the sperm tend to coagulate. So the sperm coagulate, which means that they become thick. And the sperm actually get kind of trapped in that coagulation. Remember that the seminal vesicle produces a coagulant, and that coagulant prevents the backflow of the sperm out of the vagina. So this helps to prevent backflow out of vagina. Now, the sperms are eventually going to need to be able to swim. And so we have an anticoagulant, which we talked about, which is part of the prostate gland. So there's actually an enzyme that is going to liquefy the sperm. So eventually, the semen will become more liquid. Allowing the sperm to swim. Now, one thing that the ejaculate has in it that helps to actually aid the transport of the sperm are prostaglandins. So the semen also contains prostaglandins. And these actually stimulate the smooth muscle of the female's reproductive tract to contract. And that actually helps to move the sperm further up into her reproductive system. So this contraction of the vagina, for example, helps to move the sperm up into the reproductive tract. So the sperm also die when they enter in vast numbers when they enter the vagina, because the vagina is acidic. And we talked about the reason why it is acidic, and that is because of the symbiotic bacteria that reside there. So in a reproductive female, vaginal fluids contain food, glycogen, that the bacteria can actually feed upon, and then they produce lactic acid. And so that acidic environment is actually very hostile to the sperm. And then we also have some specific phagocytes that are actually in the uterus that will actually attack the sperm as well. So phagocytes in the uterus attack the sperm. They also have to make it through the mucous membrane of the cervix. So the cervical mucus, before they even get to the uterus. So the cervical mucus will trap sperm. This thins during ovulation. Okay, so there's multiple barriers to the sperm even getting up into where they could possibly fertilize the egg. One of the things that the sperm do, however, that is really interesting, it's actually a type of behavior that the sperm undergo, which is called capacitation. So let's look at capacitation and its function. So capacitation, this is in the sperm. Let me spell that better, get prettier. So the capacitation, one of the things that the sperm has to do is eventually release enzymes so that it can digest its way towards the egg, because the outer part of the oocyte actually has leftover granulosa cells, and it also has the zona pellucida. So this is where the sperm stop their upward movement, or their movement towards the egg, and they actually rub the head against the lining of the female's reproductive tract. So this would be like when we get up into the uterus and into the oviduct. And what this does is this makes the plasma membrane, it rubs off proteins on the plasma membrane and makes the plasma membrane more fragile. So it rubs proteins off and makes the membrane more fragile. So this is important because the sperm are going to need to release those enzymes during the next stage of this reproductive phenomena, which is referred to as the acrosomal reaction. So that is the next thing that we will talk about.